Hey guys, this is Eric Weingunner with Weingunner Racing. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from the others. I am going to talk about what's in this picture shot right here in a minute, but I'm also going to show some manifolds and talk about some other things that I've learned through the week. But this is probably, I don't know anybody else has ever done this, but what I'm showing you here are three heads. And I say this because I really haven't heard anybody do it. I'm showing you my mistakes. These are three examples of things that I messed up in some way or had a part in some way of them not working out right. So all three of these, and I'll tell each one. In other words, I'm going to show you my mistakes, because I think you watch these videos and everybody thinks, man, this is really easy to do. He does it, everything goes good. What you don't see is the mistakes people make, and oftentimes people just don't share them. So I'm sharing. And I'll go through each one of these. So we'll start off with this one. This is an AFR 245 head. A customer had asked me, hey, could you port it and make it better? And I hadn't ported one before, so I had no experience with this. Now I had ported the 235 and the 210, 220s, but I hadn't done the 245, so this is my first set. I'm not thinking too much about it. I got a general idea where I'm gonna go and go from there. Well, here's what happens. And I'm gonna turn the head over and shine a light so you can see what happens. And this was one of my mistakes. So hold on just a second and I'll rearrange the head so you can see it. Okay, here we go. This light's probably gonna strobe on you guys, just warning you. So I'm gonna show you what I did wrong. I was porting the head like normal, just like everything I've been doing. And then I got to this one. And if you know anything about the AFR heads, the problem that they have, and I'm just going where the light's not strobing, is the speed over the short side, this area right here, is really, really fast. And so in order to get around that speed, you can make the bowl bigger, or you can lay back the short side, or a mixture of both. Well, the idea what I was trying to do was widen the bowl area, or widen the short side area, and get more air over here. So doing just that, there it is. Sorry about that light. I probably need to get a different light for the next head when I show you. But I know it's strobing like nobody's business. So maybe just back it up a little bit. Maybe it won't be so bad. Nope, still looks like a light show for you guys. Sorry, guys. But there's the hole. So there is water there. Now, it's strange because this wasn't the first one. This one's, for a small block, show you guys, is the same as this one. And that one didn't break through, so I didn't think anything about it. Like, okay, we're good to go. All measurements are good. Off we are. Nope. Right there. Somebody might say, well, what did you do? Now, here's a couple things. Whenever mistakes like this usually happen, what I'll do is I'll take it to my welder. There's a guy I trust in town who's really good with welding, and not just heads, he does everything. And he could have filled that up and everything, but the problem is when you go welding, usually the puddle will grow. That spot will grow and it'll start going down. It might crack, and then you're chasing your crack, and you might have to pop that seat out. And the guy was already short on time, so that's one of the disadvantages of porting too, in case you ever wonder. Everybody's in a rush. I mean, even if they say take your time, they never take your time. And so I almost try to never tell a person when their job's going to be exactly finished, because inevitably something's going to go wrong as soon as I say it. I mean, I could be done porting the head all together. I go to put it together, there's missing a lock or wrong lock or something. It never fails. So of course this guy was he needed him quicker. So I was like, oh crap. So what did I do? I ordered a whole brand new head, because luckily this is the first one. Ordered a brand new head, ported it and ported the other one, not taking out as much material, had plenty of room, got it done. And it made about, I want to say it was 30 horsepower over the stock AFR 245. However, $1,000 lost in that job. So what I could have done, because the port jobs, by the way, at that time, I think I was only charging $900. But I could have he could have said, hey, I want to order these AFR 245 heads from you, ported. I could have gave him like $100 and made him buy it himself, and that would have been the same thing. In other words, I lost money. I pretty much gave him money because of that screw up. And it wasn't his fault, of course, it was mine. So there's one mistake. That's just letting you know. Let's go to this next one real quick. This head is super special. I actually had the highest hopes for this head. In case you're wondering what's up, here's what happened. A guy in Florida calls me up, says, hey, I want you to see if you got a head that might compete with an All-Pro. I said, well, there's not one that exists, But if maybe I could do something custom and maybe make something that might compete with it. And in case you don't know what an All Pro is, on a small block Chevy World, the 23-degree head at the time, and I think they've got better stuff now, was a raised runner to 245, even though it was not 245 cc's, more like 272 cc's. Has way different valve spacing, almost like an 18-degree head that's moved to a 23, raised up port, baddest of the bad, cost a fortune. It's actually on my website. No one buys them because they literally could get a set of SB2 heads probably cheaper. So anyway, he's like, can you do that? And I was like, yeah, I think maybe I can make a custom casting. I can get Brodix to change some things in a casting, and we'll make it. So that was the plan. So what this started off as is, this is a 10X RI, but what you don't know is they have a more raised up version of runner than this. So I ordered this head custom, and here's what I mean custom. I had to move the valve center line. So if you get the head normally, it has a 40-60 valve spacing. This is not that at all. It's 75-135, which means this intake valve was moved 75 thousandths from what stock is, and the exhaust valves moves over 135. What that allows me to do is put a 220 intake valve in that and a 1/600 valve on the exhaust and still have plenty of room. Anyway, I could have really gone a 220, a 2.22, or 2.22 intake valve and a 1.580 and been just fine as well. However, here's what happened. The head came like that. This is the regular raised runner version. You might as well call this a standard port, because you could mill it down and be the same port height as a low port 23-degree head. This was not what I'd ordered, and it took 4 months to get. So what happened was I called the customer up, even though he knew it was all custom. So all custom. So call the customer up, like, hey man, Brodix made the wrong head. And they said they'll make another one, but it's going to be like they're going to rush it through. This is way before COVID. It'll be like about a 2-month wait, and then I can get started on it. And I wasn't near as busy as I am now back then. He's like, no, I want a refund. Well, here's what Brodix will not give me. They will not give me a refund. They'll make another one, but they would not give me a refund. So I was like, you know what? I can't believe I'm doing this. Here's your money back. Take your money back. And I was like, it is what it is, I guess. Because it wasn't his fault, but I was like, he understood the risk with the custom. He just had to wait for the right one to be made, but whatever. I was like, sometimes it's easier just to get it out of the way. So sidebar to that, he ends up later on getting a different set of heads for me that I just saw that he sold on a different site and never ran them. By the way, that was a $1,500 loss. So I ended up just sticking with these, and I was like, I'll port them and make it work. But I'm gonna tell you about a mistake with them in a minute. So loss of $1,500. So in other words, I could have literally, I gave him back his money. I could have said, hey, when he called up, here's $1,500. Don't talk to me ever again. That's how much of a loss it was. He later get some heads ported, but it's still, even at that, I'm gonna port your heads and I'll give you $600. That's how bad that deal ended up being. Huge loss for the business on that month. It was pretty crushing. But anyway, I think he eventually sold those heads. So anyway, here's what happened with the heads. I just wanted to see how good they would be, and it's kind of in a good way that he never went forward with it anyway, because there was a mistake. Not that it couldn't have been overcome. You guys wouldn't know. By the way, just playing around with this, it went like 370, and I have zero time to ever mess with it since. What happened was, my pointer, which is not where I left it. Give me a different pointer. Because everything got moved over, the valve center lines, what I forgot to tell him to do is file the water core. So this never happens, but it actually broke through right here. And I don't know if you can see it. I'm not going to turn on a flashlight. You can get the strobe effect right here, which it never does. In other words, it pushed so far this way, moving the bowl over and everything, that it actually struck water. What I should have told him to do is put in that valve spacing and then also put in the one that fits the water core that's for like the 12X head, because that's the same valve spacing. Then the water would have been out of the way and everything would have been fine. So in other words, when I go porting in any of these other ones, it's going to break through too, and then I'm going to weld up. Surprisingly, I did this with my spool gun. You know what? I'm just going to do the flashlight. I don't care. Sorry about the strobing. But So it broke through right about here. You can kind of see. I actually got the spool gun and it seated right in, which I was surprised because I'm not good with the aluminum welding at all. So in this case, I would have had my welder do it, but it's actually sealed up. However, there's no more progress ever came to pass with this, and it just stopped. So there's another messed up, pretty good mess up. Now I got one more. Okay, here's the next head. Now this one, I don't know, so much my mistake, but things just went wrong, I should say. These are all situations where things just didn't go well. This is the Dart small block Ford, and this is a 227, and started off CNC ported. Anyway, the customer sent this head in for me just to port it and make it better. And I was like, no problem, no big deal. Well, here's a couple things to think about. Whenever they CNC port something, I always do this. I will measure right here, and then I'll see how much material I actually have to move the bowl over that way. And the first part I'll do when I'm doing grinding will be to grind this side of the bowl first, and only moving it over just enough where it's safety here. Well, I had measured here and thought, cool, 40 thousandths, no big deal between here. Not 40 thousandths. I mean, it was like 140 when I was right where I was measuring. So I was like, I could take off 40 thousandths, that's 100 thousandths in between, we're good to go. Go grind and everything's fine. No big deal. Get to the third port and I break through something like that. So, again, strobing. See that little hole there? It broke through to the exhaust side. Now this isn't what do you think yet. So bear with me as I explain. So I was like, oh shit. Well, sorry for the cuss word. Turns out, if you ever get a CNC head from Dart, where the program comes in on the exhaust side, which I still hate when companies do this, stop making the bowl bigger on this side on the exhaust port. The air's not here. The air does not come that way. It goes that way. So you're making the bowl bigger here. You make the less room over here, which needs to be bigger. Anyway, what I didn't take into account was where the CNC lines line up. So if you do a Dart, in case you wanted a CNC machine, we'll go like this to a certain spot and stop. Then it comes in from this side and does it this way. Right here where they met, it was 140 here. It was like, I want to say 70, like right where it met. I mean, anyway, that's where it broke. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I just missed it because I didn't measure the whole way down. So what do? I had them welded up, popped out the seats, had it welded up, put new seats in, and went about my business. And on every other head, sorry, on every other port, by the way, since I was on the third one, I welded up that one and that one as well. So they have the good amount of material in that area. On all the other ports, all I did on this side was nothing. And all my bowl side came from over here. So anyway, got them all together, got done porting them, didn't even charge them for the port work because I felt horrible about it. It's all fixed, vacuum tested, everything's good. I mean, it's good. It actually flows a pretty good amount of air. And I said, don't put these on a nitrous steel. And the reason why I said don't is because when you measure that, and it was 70 thousandths. When a nitrous, you have way more heat on the exhaust side, and then you got cold on this side from the incoming air. That temperature difference is going to cause them to crack, and that's exactly what happened. The reason why you have these that hole there is because it started off as a crack, then boom, became a hole. So this one, like I said, this head is not the one that got repaired. And that one's got a crack, which you can't see. Right there, you can. Hole, and I think this one's got a crack. So, and I didn't port any part of this side at all, or the exhaust port either. Because again, there's no need to take it out on that side. Take it out on that side. But anyway, I didn't think anything about it. Sent it off, said don't run it with nitrous. He puts it on the dyno, and it didn't make all that great power, to be honest with you. It was like 560, kind of a letdown. Now, there's more to this story. Anyway, he goes down the drag strip, and he runs pretty decent, but he puts the nitrous to it. And here's the thing. You would think this is going to be bad. No, it ends up going extremely fast. And this head is not a big port at all. So it went really, really fast for the nitrous. Not on NA, but on the nitrous was phenomenally well. Well, he calls me up and says, because he took off the header for some reason, said, hey man, got holes in all these, can you fix them up? I said, man, I'll be honest, to fix all of this, you could just buy a new head. And that's the reason why it's still sitting here. I never got the okay. We're talking over $2,000 to fix this thing. So what he does is he calls up another cylinder head company. He starts with an M. Not that it matters. And he orders a brand new set of these with their CNC program in them. It made 60 more horsepower on NA than these did, which wasn't a shock to me because it was a bigger intake valve. It was a better port. It started off better. It was just better. And then he takes it to the track and when he runs NA, he is faster than he ran NA with these. He goes to put the nitrous on and it's actually slower than these were by a bunch. And he couldn't get it to even come close to these. So that was kind of a weird deal to me. And he sends these back. That's the reason why I sent them back, is because he's like, can you make them work? Because these were faster than the other ones. Once I told him the price, they've been sitting here ever since. However, this mistake or error might lead to something, because I did blast the chambers. I did not blast the intake ports. This is the most amazing part about the story, and I really wanted to do. As soon as I get a dyno, I'm going to test one of these things, because this is one of the things I want to test. Because this mistake might have been something better than I thought. I would have thought, having a hole through the exhaust port and into the intake port, you would see carbon on the ports, in the ports. You would see carbon through here and carbon through the thing, because, you know, surely it's got more pressure than the intake, and you would see it like a trail of exhaust or something. No, it was just like you see. I mean, they've been blasted since, of course, but I'm telling you, it looked exactly that way. No, I mean, they were spotlessly clean. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I'm not so sure that having that hole there didn't have something to do with, I don't know, making it run better. There's so many questions I have about that being wrong that worked better when it did it. So I'm sure it didn't happen when it was just running NA at first. But the nitrous, I'm sure that was it. Like a cutting torch, moving stuff away. Because even now I look at it and it's so thin between there, it was not that way when it left. So, mistake, but this was one of the ones I want to get on a dyno with say a Chinese head, dyno the engine, take it off and just drill a hole through it and re-dyno. That's all I want to do. Because that thing ran better and I can't explain it yet. So there's my mistakes. And I wanted to tell you guys, you know, you think some of you think I'm really, really good, and I will never say I'm really, really good. And I want you to know I have made and will continue to make mistakes. I just try to learn from them and hopefully show you some stuff. So anyway, that's the mistake part of my video this time. Let's get to some other stuff. Oh, the floor is a disaster. I have a 14, going to be 15 in a week, son. It's supposed to come out here and clean. Yeah. I just finished porting this intake manifold. This is the YN Track Warrior. I know you're like, Dominator? Nah. It started off looking like that. Yeah. This was going on the dyno soon, so we'll get to see what it does. I'm kind of curious. He has them set at 496 AFR 315 heads. It's a solid roller, like a 256 cam. And it's going to have this intake manifold on it. And this is 4150. And we'll see what it makes. He's like, do you think it'll make 600? Or sorry, 700? I was like, yeah, it should. So this will be interesting. I do like this manifold. By the way, some people said, did that Team G? Nah, this one thing looks way closer to a 454R than it does the old school Team Gs from YN. So anyway, there's that. Next thing. If you've been watching my videos, and which if you're still sticking around, you probably have been, you watched the last one where I flowed a whole bunch of single plane manifolds on my Superflow attached to a head. And someone said, you should do the same thing with a dual plane. Well, I would if I had more. So these are the manifolds I've got because I want to do it. One, the heads that were on there, those are getting assembled here in like 5 minutes. So those are done, the ones that got flowed with all the single planes. But I have to get another one, which I've got AFR 220s here that are in line to get ported. Those flow about 300, real popular head. And we can test them with this stuff. But let me show you what I got. So this one is not available anymore because it looks really different. This is called the Torque Link. This was a special manifold made. And if you look at it, it's kind of a weird design. Now, it is a dual plane, and it's got dimples for all you guys that love it. It's got dimples on the floor, but if you look at it, it's got an extremely long runners. And this is the bottom. And it comes down here and into the head. Extremely long. And it looks like it actually has more cross-sectional area at the openings than most other dual planes do as well. This would be interesting to flow. Now, here's what's weird. So this makes two people I've talked to about this manifold. This one's sitting here because an Australian asked me to port some stuff, and he sent me 2 of them. And he said, just keep this one here until I need it. That was 9 years ago. So I did port one, and this other one's been sitting here ever since. But anyway, the 2 people I know that have ran it, one was Joe Carroll, and he tried this manifold, the Engine Master, on his 327. He said it sucked. And the Engine Masters, we were doing average horsepower and torque from 2,500 to 6,500 RPM. And he said it was horrible. And then I talked to Richard Holder because I was asking about, he wanted me to do the 3,800 heads, V6 heads, which he still hasn't sent to me, but I will port them, and I know they're cast iron for him, not anybody else. So the only 2 people I'll port cast iron for is Douglas Machine Shop in Enid and Richard Holdner. So those are the only 2. If you're not those 2, I'm not doing it. But anyway, he's supposed to send those, and we're going to do some dyno testing with that. But I asked him, he said, anything you want to see tested? I said, you know what? I do. I got a couple things I want to see done. I want to see what would happen if you cut out this divider and start cutting it down, how much it actually changes. And he said, I've got some tests on that already been done. And then I said there's some few other things, but I can't remember now. But I asked him, have you ever messed with the torque link? Because I don't mind testing out a few different dual planes. And he goes, we tried that, and it wasn't good. He said the RPM air gap beat it. You wouldn't think that with a long runner. It should make a lot of torque. It looks like a better, straighter shot. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to try flooring this on a head. And I've got this one. This one, by the way, is for sale. So if someone needs them, I'll sell you this one. This is a YN Speed Warrior. It's got an air gap design like the RPM. It does not have a notch down. The RPM does. And that's it. So I'm going to flow that one. Then I've got this. This was actually on my S10 when I picked it up from my father, because I'd put an engine in it with this and in it. And this is just a Summit. Looks like it's probably just a Chinese RPM air gap. I'm sorry, not air gap, just RPM deal. Like they took an Edelbrock RPM, a Performer RPM, and just China. Or maybe Summit got them to put their name on it. I don't know. But that's what it looks like. And anyway, I'll clean it up and flow it with attached to a head. Then there's this. This is another story about weird stuff. So this guy sent me a set of, this is back when I was doing cast iron, some Dart 227 CNC heads for a small block Chevy. They were cast iron. Asked me to port them, and he sent me this, and he said, just leave it there. And then I tried getting a hold of him, and I couldn't. And it's been sitting here ever since. And I would love to have tried this manifold, but I don't have the top. And I don't know how Holly will sell me the top. This is for their Holly Annihilator setup. But it's all it is a tunnel ramp. Except there's a box that goes on, you've got a forward scoop or forward throttle body. But I can flow it against the head with this just because it's a straight shot. I mean, look, it's just straight. They're just small. I mean, look how small that is. Which, by the way, is about the same opening size as all of these 2. Except for that one. That one's way bigger. Anyway, if there's another dual plane manifold you want to get in this test, and someone asked, and you can send whatever. I can do it real fast. It won't be this weekend or whatever, but send an intake and manifold in, the dual plane. You pay for the return shipping, and I'll put it on there and make a video, and you can see it. So there's that. Next thing I want to talk about real quick is this. I got a hold of Superflow. They were really kind this time, and I asked them some questions about the old 750 here. And because if you've watched my videos, I said it will not pull. When I'm flowing my BRX head, it will not maintain 28 inches when it goes to 520. And they said that 750 number right here is at 10 inches of vacuum, not 25 like I thought. Which means this bench really is only, if you want to pull 28 inches of vacuum, which I measured, it will only do it up to 500 CFM. At 500 CFM, it will do it. Actually, 520, sorry. I wrote down wrong. 540. That's where the max I've got out of this bench at 28 inches. And I'm got 240 volts, all that. So it's not electrical. It's just, that's all it's got. Anyway, the weird part is I called them up because I was like, man, you know what? The Sanyas is amazing. Because this one, by the way, pulls 712 at 28 inches. So I'll never have a head that flows that. But then I got to thinking, yeah, maybe I get rid of this one and get a 1020. You know, the bigger bench, just to see if it pull more air, just to have something. But then it's more like, it's just not a really expensive toy. It's not making you any money. And expensive, you want to know how much? This bench now cost $17,500. And that doesn't include this. So if you're like, I'm thinking about getting into cylinder head porting, I think I'll buy a flow bench. It's $17,500 for just this bench. That doesn't include any of this, which means you still have to pay, that's $1,000 if you want the swirl meter, $1,100, sorry. Stand, $600. The plate, which isn't on here, this one is. Plate, $430. Bore, $200. And remember, you have to have this plate for every head you're going to flow and bore size you're going to flow. I cannot begin to tell you the amount of thousands of dollars I have in just fixtures for the flow bench. So you'll be in $25,000 if you get just that bench to actually do anything useful. Because you still have to buy the valve opener device. That. So anyway, but I was like, I wonder how much a 1020 is. $29,400. So I'm tempted, but even if I was to sell this one, which I'm still debating it, I really am. That's dyno money. So I want a dyno, I do. That's another thing. I ain't gonna make any money hardly on it. I guess I could, but it's just gonna be a time killer. But at least I'll get more research and development stuff done. Anyway, there's that. Last thing. The Power Glide is in this S10. Keith, I haven't introduced you to my guy that works one day a week here in the shop. He does cleaning and tear down on heads, and he blasts a few heads and refaces some valves. He's doing a good job. He won't be here this Friday, but he actually put the Power Glide transmission in this truck for me and got it all hooked up, and I went for a drive. Holy cow. I know some of you are like, well, aren't you afraid that they'll slow down because it's only got one gear? I'll tell you right now, when you take off in this, it doesn't gain as many RPMs as it did before when you hit the gas, but you're going faster. Like you look at the speedometer as you're doing it, you're accelerating quicker. So it doesn't, the engine's not just revving up, but you're going nowhere. It's moving. And here's the big thing. So and by the way, you have to shift manually with this, which is no big deal. It shifts hard, and which I love. It's the same type of transmission that's in the Camaro, except for it doesn't have the Pro Tree tram brake. This has a trans brake, it's just a bracket style. The thing I could tell you for sure is I had it in final drive, so it's in second gear, cruising down, going 40 mile an hour, and stepped on it, and it broke them loose, kicking it sideways. It never did that before with the Turbo 350. Never. So I cannot wait to see what this thing does at the track. So I've got the slicks and stuff for it too. I bet you the slicks make it, I think if we ran it just like it is now, one, it won't hook up because those tires won't. But when I put the slicks on, I'm betting what happens is the ET drops and the mile per hour actually drops as well. And the reason why I say that is because you wouldn't think it, but those radials versus slicks, there's a few mile an hour into that, even though the Power Glide's putting out more power to the rear end because there's less gears to move and stuff. I'm thinking the ET will drop, but so will a mile an hour just because of the slicks. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks for sticking around in the video. I gotta get some stuff done. Last thing, because you made it this far, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, I've got so much stuff in the shop to get done, just I can make videos for, which I don't mind. But here's what I want. You guys keep asking questions and comments, and then I hate typing on this phone. It sucks. So what I'm going to do is I asked you guys, I want you to, very simply, any question you want to ask of me, write it in the comments. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to respond back probably, unless it's like I can answer within 3 words or so. I'm going to make a whole new video, and I'm just going to read every comment on this that's a question, and I'm going to answer all the questions during that time. And so in other words, I'm going to make a video answering your questions from those comments. So I won't be typing back on it unless it's real short. So if there's something you want to ask, and I'll make another video probably next week. It's going to be next week, and it won't be Sundays. It'll either be Wednesday or Friday that will answer your questions. Okay, thanks for watching this long. Take care.